So, this analysis will contain major spoilers for episode 4. With that warning out of the way, let us get to it. So, what is going on? Well, Maeve now is apparently a super weapon. Does this make any sense whatsoever? Well, it's a little interesting. When she confronted William, the man in black said that Hale had made upgrades, so she couldn't access his mind directly. And when she enters that strange room, we spot a little bit of the tower that we later see in New York City, or at least the New York City that Hale controls in the future. And she doesn't access William directly, but uses the sound blast, and that allows her and Caleb to get out of the park. I did think that part, in terms of the park, was very weak. It should have been a little bit more challenging for them to leave, and why Hale is so easygoing seemed a little weird. She does have more resources than William, though. I'm glad he wasn't totally out of the fight and he came back. So what is going on? Well, a lot is converging with the tower because Christina also has been given hints about the tower through the homeless man. She's been having strange dreams. But critically in this episode, she overslept. So apparently she is kind of locked into kind of this weird matrix routine where she is being controlled and monitored, but she sometimes deviates from the path, but everyone knows that. And there is this thing that Maeve said about Charlotte, or whatever we're calling this version of Dolores, has a dark side. And throughout the entire seasons, they played with these contrasts, usually of black and white clothing, black and white colors, this kind of stark choice between one and the other. And I think where they're going with this is obviously Christina has to help Caleb. And I think that was given away when J and C they go back and forth on whether to trust Bernard or not trust him. And they mention an outlier. I think that's going to be Christina that we see. But why her? I don't think we know yet. I think where they're going to go with this is there is going to be an integration between, for lack of a better word, the black and the white. And Maeve and Christina together are going to form a third option, and that's going to be the way this I guess Terminator resistance band is going to fight Charlotte. Because at this point, Hale is insanely powerful. It does appear that these flies have basically taken over most of the world. There seems to be very little resistance left to her because Maya talks about her having those weird visions about flies swarming her family at a picnic, and then she doesn't know what happened next. All this is very unusual, and it does fit in with the prior episodes where the nanotech did take over people, but it was always imperfect. And Hale tells us those were prototypes, so she's still testing the technology in the past, but in the future, it appears to be totally perfected, where people can just be frozen instantaneously. So her control does seem to be almost 100%. So how they're going to be able to resist her seems very, very weak or unlikely. And what is Maeve's power? She's definitely more powerful than we've seen in prior seasons, but her, I guess, hacking into Caleb does fit the prior seasons. It has been done before, but not at this level. And even what happened with the lighthouse in the aftermath is left a little sketchy. Was Caleb turned into a host? Does he have kind of host human hybrid body? What makes him an outlier in the first place? Before it was that he was unusually kind, and that's what Dolores saw, that he wasn't like the others, he was much more compassionate. So he seemed to be a little bit more ethical or moral. But why is he an outlier now? Beyond that Frankie is his daughter, he doesn't seem unique enough. It's unclear why Hale doesn't just kill him. I would understand Hale keeping William as a kind of pet. That makes sense, kind of torturing him and showing that he failed. He failed absolutely. So is she just collecting pets? That seems a little weak. And it does mirror a lot of Watchmen, where if you know that, Ozymandias kind of reveals his master plan, but there it seemed the master plan was going to go ahead. There's no stopping him. Here it does seem like there's a chance of failure. So perhaps this is just a part of Dolores having, yes, a dark side, but she can't fully commit to the darkness, and presumably Christina and Maeve will somehow team up and find a way to defeat her. Because we do see that Bernard has been spotted by drones, but he doesn't seem worried. So it does appear he's ready to die, so he has no issue with trading his life. He knows he's not really going to survive this whole adventure. He just wants to do certain things to get things into position to resist Hale. But what is the resistance? What does Maeve have as a super weapon? She definitely does seem to have a lot of powers. She seemed to be able to access that prototype of the tower, but can she take on the entire tower? That seems highly unlikely. Again, even Neo in the Matrix, even though he seemed to have godlike power, did still have limitations, so I would assume Christina is going to be the missing ingredient. She's able to do something that even Maeve or Caleb or the others cannot do, and she'll be the vital missing link. And I guess Teddy is there to distract her because she seems to be being offered a kind of romantic kind of getaway with her and Teddy so she can finally be happy, but part of her is still resisting. So she is being monitored. She is in a kind of loop like Neo, but she's trying to get out of the loop. So I'm guessing there's a hidden hand here we have not yet seen or was only hinted at in the other episodes. But who this person is or what this entity is, we don't know. Because Jay talked about the outlier, and we think it's Christina, but it could be another person or another host or another strand we have not yet been privy to. A lot of interesting questions. I would say I did like the action in this. It really felt visceral, very frenetic, and very well executed. But at the intellectual level, it did feel like it was just rehashing the prior seasons. It was well done, so it's a very well done rehashing of the Terminator, the Matrix, Dune, and other influences. But I think Westworld, we always expect a little more. So half the season has so far been very excellent, but it is basically doing the prior seasons, but at a much better level. But I'm hoping we're going to get a genuinely really good intellectual twist. So far, they've done a lot of great kind of action movie twists, but not really an intellectual twist with the mythology. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens next.